I don't have any regrets about any of that stuff. In fact, I had a kind of a...
Paul Newman was widely regarded as the most handsome man in American cinema. He spent 49 years married to one woman in an industry where relationships rarely lasted. He raised 6 children, quietly donated more than $500 million to charity, much of it earned through his famous salad dressing brand, and after one phone call in November 1978, those closest to him believed he was never quite the same again. This is the story of the man with the unforgettable blue eyes. The actor who raced cars into his 70s, built a camp where children with cancer could simply be kids again, and quietly admitted he never believed he deserved the face the world admired. We'll follow his life through biographies, family interviews, Ethan Hawke's 2022 documentary, and Newman's own memoir published after his death.
There are discoveries that you make about yourself as you get older. And
where history is certain, we'll say so. Where memories fill the gaps, we'll make that clear. Paul Newman was born on January 26, 1925, in Shaker Heights, Ohio. His father, Arthur Newman Sr., co-owned a successful sporting goods store in Cleveland, giving the family a comfortable middle-class life. His mother, Teresa, was a Hungarian immigrant who later embraced Christian Science. Home was stable but emotionally distant. Paul and his older brother, Arthur Jr., worked weekends in their father's store, learning early that usefulness mattered more than praise. His father became the defining figure of his childhood. Intelligent, well-read, and quietly funny, Arthur Sr. admired education but rarely showed affection. As Newman later recalled, compliments were uncommon, and when they came, they were brief and unforgettable. When criticism came from his father, it was direct. Praise was almost non-existent. Newman later recalled bringing home a school report and leaving it on the kitchen counter, hoping his father would say something. Days passed. The report disappeared, but no words ever came. Even decades later, he admitted he still remembered that silence. His father died in 1950 before Paul became famous. Newman carried with him a lifelong desire to hear the approval that never arrived, to understand the man he became, the relentless worker, generous philanthropist, and surprisingly modest star.
different ways that you, open up and become available.
You have to start with that quiet kitchen and a boy waiting for a sentence that never came. As a child, Paul was small, shy, and more interested in books than sports. His older brother excelled athletically, while Paul found comfort on the stage. Encouraged by his mother, he acted in school plays, first as a court jester, then as St. George. Acting gave him something real life often didn't, a place where he could become someone worthy of love. After graduating from Shaker Heights High School in 1943, Newman enlisted in the U.S. Navy. He hoped to become a pilot, but a medical exam revealed he was colorblind. Instead, he trained as a radio man and rear gunner aboard torpedo bombers serving in the Pacific. In 1945, his unit was assigned to the aircraft carrier USS Bunker Hill during the Battle of Okinawa. On May 11th, 2 Japanese kamikaze planes struck the carrier within seconds, killing nearly 400 sailors and leaving many more wounded. Paul Newman was supposed to be there. But days before the attack, his pilot developed an ear infection, grounding their entire crew. While most of their squadron boarded the carrier that morning, Newman and his crew remained behind. Many of the men who flew out never returned. Late in life, Newman spoke about surviving with quiet humility. He believed he had done nothing to deserve being spared, just as the men who died had done nothing to deserve their fate. He later admitted that surviving by pure chance left him feeling that much of his success was never fully earned, a burden he carried for the rest of his life. Paul Newman returned home from World War II in 1946 and used the GI Bill to attend Kenyon College in Ohio.
That discovery is interesting, especially if it happens in parallel with your own.
Yeah.
His college years were far from quiet. He drank heavily, got into bar fights, and was even arrested after one wild night involving a barrel of beer. Years later, he laughed about those reckless days. Amid the chaos, something changed. Newman began taking acting seriously. He appeared in campus productions, studied plays, and realized the passion he'd discovered as a child could become a career. He graduated in 1949 and that December married actress Jacqueline Witt. He was 24, she was 20, and they were deeply in love. Their son, Scott, was born the following year. Soon afterward, Paul's father died, leaving him with a young family and the loss of the approval he had sought his entire life. Out of duty, Newman briefly ran the family sporting goods store, but he hated it. Within 2 years, he sold his share, moved his family east, studied drama at Yale, then enrolled at the famous Actors Studio in New York under Lee Strasberg. By 1953, Newman was landing Broadway roles and appearing in live television dramas. His family also grew with the births of daughters Susan and Stephanie. While Jacqueline cared for 3 young children, Paul's acting career began gaining momentum. His first Hollywood film, The Silver Chalice, 1954, was a disaster in his eyes. Newman disliked it so much that he later published a newspaper apology to anyone who had paid to see it. Though the film faded into obscurity, his career did not.
I had one suit, a seersucker suit, which I washed every night and ironed. I had one blue shirt and a black knit tie and one pair of shoes.
Around this time, another chapter quietly began. In 1953, while working on the Broadway production of Picnic, Newman met actress Joanne Woodward. She was intelligent, witty, and fiercely independent. He was talented, ambitious, and already married. At first, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward were simply friends. But over time, that friendship became something deeper. Newman never tried to hide the cost of that change. Late in life, he admitted that his greatest happiness with Joanne came at the expense of his first wife, Jacqueline. Like the guilt he carried from surviving the war, he never completely escaped it. Remember where his story began: a boy waiting for his father's approval, a young sailor spared by chance, and a husband with 3 children whose life was about to change forever. Before the magazine covers and Hollywood fame, Jacqueline Witt was beside him through every uncertain step. She married Newman in 1949, gave birth to their son and 2 daughters, and followed him from Ohio to New York while he struggled to build an acting career. Friends remembered her as kind, intelligent, and devoted. She had married an aspiring actor, not a future movie star. Everything changed in 1956 with Somebody Up There Likes Me, the boxing drama based on Rocky Graziano's life. The role had originally been intended for James Dean before his fatal car crash in 1955. Newman inherited the part and delivered the performance that launched him into stardom. At just 31 years old, he had become one of Hollywood's newest leading men.
But when the Soviets shoot down an airliner, the same situation, we rise in moral outrage against this act. What is the difference?
Around that same time, his friendship with Joanne Woodward turned into love. Multiple biographies, family interviews, and Ethan Hawke's 2022 documentary all point to 1956 as the year their relationship began. His marriage to Jacqueline did not end overnight. The separation stretched painfully through 1956 and 1957, with failed attempts to repair the relationship and countless difficult conversations. Their divorce was finalized in January 1958. Jacqueline quietly took custody of their 3 children and moved forward with her life. She never publicly criticized Newman, never wrote a memoir, and rarely spoke about the breakup. Her dignity often leaves her overlooked in his story, but she deserves to be remembered. She stood beside him before the fame and paid the highest price when it arrived. Just days after the divorce, on January 29, 1958, Paul Newman married Joanne Woodward in a small ceremony at the El Rancho Vegas Hotel in Las Vegas. Paul Newman was 33 when he married Joanne Woodward in 1958. She was 28 and, at the time, the bigger star, having just won the Academy Award for The Three Faces of Eve.
Because it's insistent. We must insist that the Soviets have got to be created as an enemy.
Within a year, Newman's fame would catch up, but on their wedding day, Joanne was already Hollywood royalty. Their marriage would last more than 49 years, ending only with Newman's death in 2008. In Hollywood, where marriages often ended within a few years, their relationship became legendary. Interviewers constantly asked how they had made it work. Newman usually answered with humor. His most famous reply became part of Hollywood folklore. "Why would I go out for hamburger when I have steak at home?" He meant it as a compliment to Joanne, and she always accepted it with the amused affection of someone who knew him well. Looking back, Newman never tried to excuse how their relationship began. In his memoir, he admitted he had caused deep pain to Jacqueline, a woman who had done nothing to deserve it. Joanne also carried the emotional weight of becoming his second wife. It was a complicated story with no easy villains. As his personal life settled, his career exploded. Newman became something Hollywood rarely produced, a leading man with movie star looks who approached acting with the discipline of a stage performer. He continued studying at the Actors Studio even after becoming famous, always pushing himself to improve. The late 1950s and 1960s brought one acclaimed role after another. He starred alongside Joanne Woodward in The Long Hot Summer, earned his first Oscar nomination for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof opposite Elizabeth Taylor, became unforgettable as pool hustler Eddie Felson in The Hustler, and impressed critics again with HUD. Then came Cool Hand Luke in 1967. His portrayal of the rebellious prisoner refusing to give up became one of the defining performances of American cinema. The film cemented his image as the tough, unbreakable outsider, a role audiences never forgot. By the end of the 1960s, Paul Newman was one of the most recognizable men in the world. He appeared on magazine covers, earned enormous salaries, and seemed to have everything. Yet behind the fame, friends and biographers consistently described a man who remained surprisingly humble, carrying a quiet self-doubt that never completely disappeared. Despite his growing fame, Paul Newman struggled with insecurities. He drank heavily, a habit dating back to his Navy years, worked relentlessly, and disliked the attention his appearance attracted. He often said he wished people admired him for what he had earned rather than the face he was born with. His famous blue eyes felt more like a burden than a gift. Friends recalled that women frequently stopped him just to stare into them. To protect his privacy, Newman wore sunglasses almost everywhere. He kept several pairs in every car, not out of vanity, but as a way to keep a small part of himself hidden from the public. While his career soared, his family continued to grow. Paul and Joanne welcomed 3 daughters: Nell in 1959, Melissa, known as Lissy, in 1961, and Clea in 1965. Along with Scott, Susan, and Stephanie from his first marriage, Newman was now the father of 6 children. By all accounts, he took fatherhood seriously. He provided for his children, attended important events when possible, and tried to stay involved. But Hollywood demanded long months away on film sets. His 3 oldest children lived primarily with their mother in California, and Newman later admitted he had not been as present as he wished. The visits were too few and the phone calls too short. Among his children, Scott's story would become the most heartbreaking. Born in 1950, Scott was athletic, handsome, and determined to build his own identity. He worked as a stuntman, tried acting, and even took up parachuting. But escaping the shadow of his famous father proved difficult. By his mid-20s, Scott was battling serious alcohol and drug addiction. Newman knew about his son's struggles and tried to help through treatment programs and countless difficult conversations. Like many families facing addiction, they discovered that love alone could not save someone determined by their illness. That long struggle would reach its tragic turning point in November 1978, when a phone call changed Paul's life forever. By then, the heart of the Newman family was no longer Hollywood, but a quiet farmhouse in Westport, Connecticut. Purchased in 1961 for about $110,000, the home beside the Aspetuck River became the peaceful refuge where Paul and Joanne raised their family, far from the spotlight whenever they could. The farmhouse Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward bought in Westport, Connecticut, was comfortable but far from extravagant. Set beside the quiet Aspetuck River, it reflected the life they wanted. Not Hollywood glamour, but stability. They raised their daughters there, never traded it for larger mansions, and stayed for the rest of their 49-year marriage. Newman died in that house, and Joanne remained there long afterward. Choosing one home in one ordinary town may have been the foundation of their lasting marriage. While work often took them to New York or Los Angeles, Westport remained their refuge. Their daughters attended local schools, they shopped in neighborhood stores, and over time they became simply the famous couple living by the river rather than untouchable celebrities. Everything changed on a November morning in 1978. Paul Newman was 53 years old and at the height of his career. He had starred in dozens of films, earned countless awards, and built one of Hollywood's strongest marriages. Then the phone rang. The call came from California. His 28-year-old son, Scott, had been found unconscious in a hotel room in West Los Angeles. Days later, the coroner ruled his death an accidental overdose caused by a combination of alcohol, Valium, and prescription medications. The date was November 20th, 1978. According to family members and Joanne Woodward's later recollections, Newman was devastated. He made no public statement and disappeared from public view. For days, he barely spoke, sitting quietly inside the Connecticut farmhouse. When he finally addressed the tragedy years later, his words were filled with regret. In his memoir, Newman wrote that he believed he had failed to reach his son before it was too late. That guilt, he admitted, never left him. Most people slowly learn to live alongside grief. For Paul Newman, grief became something different. It permanently changed the way he saw himself and the way he lived. Friends and family remembered the months after Scott's death as the quietest, most withdrawn period of his entire life, a silence that would eventually lead him to transform unimaginable personal loss into a mission that helped countless others. After Scott's death, Paul Newman didn't give emotional interviews or release public statements. Instead, he retreated into two places that helped him cope: the garage behind his Connecticut home and the quiet support of his wife, Joanne. His passion for racing had begun almost by accident. In 1969, while preparing for the film Winning, Newman attended racing school so he could convincingly play a professional driver. To everyone's surprise, including his own, he proved to be naturally talented. What started as movie preparation soon became a serious pursuit. By the early 1970s, he was competing in Sports Car Club of America events, and by 1976, at age 51, he had won his first national championship. Racing offered something Hollywood never could. Behind a helmet and fireproof gear, no one recognized him. For perhaps the only time in his adult life, Paul Newman wasn't the famous actor with unforgettable blue eyes. He was simply another driver focused on the next corner. Following Scott's death, the garage and the racetrack became more than hobbies. Friends remembered him spending long hours working on engines, finding comfort in mechanical problems that had clear solutions. While he worked, Joanne quietly stood beside him. Sometimes she brought him coffee. Sometimes she simply sat nearby. She understood that her presence mattered more than words. 7 months after losing his son, Newman made a decision that stunned many people. At 54 years old, he entered the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans, one of the world's toughest endurance races. Driving a Porsche 935 alongside Dick Barber and German racing veteran Rolf Stommelen, Newman faced rain, darkness, and one of motorsport's greatest challenges. When the race ended, their team finished an astonishing second overall. The result shocked both Europe and America. Few expected a Hollywood actor to compete with the world's best endurance drivers, let alone stand on the podium. True to form, Newman refused to take much credit. He praised his teammates and joked that his biggest job had been avoiding crashes. But professional drivers told a different story. They said Newman had earned their respect through speed, discipline, and consistency. He wasn't a celebrity pretending to race. He was a genuine competitor who belonged on the track. Paul Newman never stopped racing. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, he continued winning championships, competing in professional endurance events well into his 60s and 70s. One of his greatest achievements came in 1995. At 70 years old, Newman helped his team win the GTS 1 class at the 24 Hours of Daytona, becoming one of the oldest drivers ever to win a class at the legendary race. The accomplishment earned lasting respect throughout the racing world. When asked why he kept risking his life behind the wheel, Newman gave a simple answer. On the racetrack, he said, he was free from everything else. Hidden behind a helmet, no one cared about his famous face or movie career. There was only the car, the next corner, and complete focus. For him, racing wasn't excitement, it was peace. While racing became one outlet for his grief, another life-changing idea quietly took shape in the kitchen of his Connecticut home. His close friend, writer A.E. Hotchner, often visited the Newman household. For years, Paul had been making his own salad dressing using olive oil, vinegar, mustard, lemon, and a few secret ingredients. Around Christmas 1980, he began bottling it in old wine bottles and giving it to friends as gifts. The dressing became so popular that friends joked he should sell it. One evening, Newman and Hotchner decided to give the idea a try. What started as a casual conversation soon became a real business. They found a local bottler, designed a label featuring Newman's smiling face, and named the company Newman's Own. The first bottles reached stores in 1982. Neither man expected much success. Newman believed the company would probably fail after a year or two and simply become a funny story to tell at dinner parties. Instead, the dressing became an instant hit. Demand exploded, leading to pasta sauce, popcorn, lemonade, salsa, and many more products. Nearly every new item found eager customers. Then Newman made an extraordinary decision. Before the company had earned significant profits, he announced that every dollar of after-tax profit from Newman's Own would be donated to charity. Not a portion, not most of it, every penny. He also refused to take a salary, turning what could have become a business empire into one of the most remarkable charitable ventures in American history. Paul Newman never accepted a salary, dividend, or any personal profit from Newman's Own. The company existed for one purpose: to give its earnings away. He never treated the decision as an act of heroism. Instead, he joked that an actor and a writer had accidentally entered the food business, so any profits should obviously go to people who needed them more. His favorite slogan captured that philosophy perfectly: shameless exploitation in pursuit of the common good. It was funny, but he meant every word. The results were extraordinary. By the late 1980s, Newman's Own was donating millions of dollars each year. By the late 1990s, those donations had grown to tens of millions. At the time of Newman's death in 2008, the company had donated roughly $250 million. Today, that total has grown to well over $600 million, making it one of the greatest charitable business success stories in American history. Newman often laughed that his salad dressing had become more successful than any movie he had ever made. But one project meant even more than the company itself. After losing Scott, Newman couldn't stop thinking about children facing illnesses far more devastating than anything his son had experienced. Many spent months or years in hospitals and had never enjoyed simple childhood experiences like summer camp, campfires, canoes, or making friends outdoors. Instead of building another hospital, Newman wanted to give them something different. He decided to build a real summer camp where medical care quietly existed in the background while the children focused on simply being kids. In the woods of northeastern Connecticut, he founded the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp, named after the outlaws from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. The camp opened in 1988, welcoming children with cancer, blood disorders, sickle cell disease, and other serious illnesses. When the first campers arrived on yellow school buses, they were greeted with games, counselors in costume, and the smell of lunch cooking, not a hospital atmosphere. Among the welcoming staff stood Paul Newman himself, wearing a cowboy hat and sunglasses, helping carry luggage off the buses. He rarely introduced himself. Some children recognized the famous actor, many didn't. That suited him perfectly. Staff members later recalled that Newman visited often without fanfare. He arrived in an ordinary car, skipped the cameras, sat with whichever children happened to be eating lunch, and spent the day simply enjoying their company. For those children, he wasn't a Hollywood legend. He was just another counselor helping them forget they were sick. At the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp, Paul Newman rarely acted like a celebrity. He listened more than he spoke, laughed at the children's jokes, and often left without anyone outside the camp knowing he had visited. Staff members recalled a quiet ritual. After the campers had gone in for dinner, Newman would sometimes sit alone on the dock overlooking the pond, staring across the water in silence. No one asked what he was thinking. They already knew about Scott. The camp's success inspired others around the world. Similar camps opened across the United States and eventually in countries including Ireland, France, Italy, Israel, and Hungary. Together, they became the Serious Fun Children's Network, which has since welcomed well over 1 million seriously ill children and their families, all free of charge. Newman disliked being called a philanthropist. He thought the word sounded too self-important. Instead, he explained his generosity with simple logic. He believed he had been lucky. His looks led to a career. The career created wealth. And the money belonged with children who had never been given the same luck. To him, it wasn't charity. It was simple arithmetic. By the 1990s, Newman was well into his 60s and then his 70s. His marriage remained strong, Newman's own continued thriving, and every summer more children arrived at the camp he had built. Without realizing it, the boy who had once waited for approval from his own father had created a place where thousands of children heard the encouragement and kindness they desperately needed. As he grew older, America viewed him differently. He was no longer just a movie star. He had become someone people genuinely trusted, not because he was perfect, but because he never pretended to be. He still enjoyed beer, sometimes tinkered with race cars in his garage, and occasionally lost his patience when reporters asked about his famous blue eyes yet again. His marriage had ordinary disagreements like any long relationship. Those imperfections made him feel even more authentic. His acting career also evolved. Rather than chasing leading man roles, Newman began choosing challenging character parts that interested him as an artist. In 1986, at age 61, he finally won his first Academy Award for Best Actor, reprising the role of Fast Eddie Felson in Martin Scorsese's The Color of Money, 25 years after first playing the character in The Hustler. In typical Paul Newman fashion, he didn't even attend the ceremony. Paul Newman skipped the 1987 Academy Awards when he finally won Best Actor for The Color of Money. Laughing, as always, he joked that after chasing the Oscar for so many years, if he showed up in person, it might run away again. His director accepted the award, and the statue was later delivered to his home in Connecticut. The victory felt especially ironic because the Academy had already presented him with an honorary Oscar the year before, almost as if they had given him a Lifetime Achievement Award before finally recognizing one of his performances. Newman found the whole situation hilarious. Throughout the 1990s, he continued acting, choosing character-driven roles instead of traditional leading man parts. He earned another Oscar nomination for Nobody's Fool, 1994, played memorable supporting roles in films like The Hudsucker Proxy, and received his final Academy Award nomination at age 77 for Road to Perdition, alongside Tom Hanks. In 2006, Newman introduced himself to a new generation by voicing Doc Hudson in Pixar's Cars. He accepted the role partly because his grandchildren would enjoy it, but also because Doc was a retired racing champion, a character whose love of motorsports closely reflected Newman's own. The film became a worldwide hit. Millions of children who had never seen Cool Hand Luke or Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid came to know Paul Newman through the voice of an animated race car. Away from Hollywood, life remained centered in Westport, Connecticut. The farmhouse by the river never became a celebrity mansion. Friends remembered it as a warm family home filled with dogs, grandchildren, Joanne's art supplies, race cars in the garage, and bottles of homemade salad dressing sitting in the kitchen. Despite decades of success, Newman and Joanne never abandoned the ordinary life they had built together. Their marriage remained one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries. Reporters constantly asked how they had stayed together for so long. Newman usually answered with jokes, but Joanne offered a simpler explanation. They worked at it. Like every couple, they argued, made up and faced difficult seasons together. They even attended marriage counseling during the late 1960s, something few Hollywood couples of that era admitted publicly. Instead of pretending their relationship was perfect, they acknowledged that lasting love required effort, and they kept choosing each other year after year. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward stayed together because they kept choosing each other. They never pretended marriage was effortless or that Hollywood's temptations didn't exist. Instead, they worked through the difficult moments. 49 years of marriage were built from thousands of small decisions made one day at a time. In the 2022 documentary built from the family's private recordings, Newman reflected on their relationship with his familiar humor. He admitted he never fully understood why Joanne had stayed with him for so many years. It was a humble answer from a man who had spent decades thinking about the question. By the late 1990s, their daughters were grown, grandchildren filled the house, Newman's own was thriving, and the hole in the wall gang camp was changing countless lives. Most people would have slowed down. Newman didn't. At 78, he accepted the demanding role of the stage manager in Thornton Wilder's Our Town, produced by the Westport Country Playhouse, where Joanne served as artistic director. The role required carrying nearly the entire production through direct conversations with the audience, yet Newman embraced the challenge. Critics praised his performance for its quiet honesty and emotional depth. After a lifetime of fame, the story of ordinary people living ordinary lives seemed to reflect his own values more than ever. The production later transferred to Broadway and was filmed for public television. After Our Town, Newman's acting career gradually came to a close. Aside from voicing Doc Hudson in Cars and a few smaller projects, his remarkable career was complete. Over more than 5 decades, he appeared in around 65 films, earned 9 Academy Award nominations, won 1 competitive Oscar, and received an honorary Academy Award. It was one of the longest and most respected careers in American cinema. In his final years, Newman devoted most of his energy to the things that mattered most: his family, his marriage, the camp, the Charitable Foundation, and racing. During one of his last major interviews in 2007, he was asked how he hoped people would remember him. His answer revealed everything. He smiled and said he hoped it wouldn't be because of his famous blue eyes. Those, he insisted, had simply been an accident of birth. Instead, he wanted to be remembered for the things he had actually chosen: his marriage, his charity, his camp, his racing, and the life he built beyond the camera. In the spring of 2007, Paul Newman quietly told those closest to him that he no longer trusted his memory enough to continue acting. He had considered another stage production at the Westport Country Playhouse, but stepped away, fearing he could no longer reliably remember his lines. Publicly, he simply announced his retirement. Privately, he admitted something much harder. It was becoming difficult to trust his own mind. Not long afterward, Newman was diagnosed with lung cancer. He never held a press conference or publicly discussed his illness. The diagnosis became widely known only after his death. Having smoked for much of his life before eventually quitting, Newman chose a modest course of treatment. After watching close friends endure long, exhausting medical battles, he decided he wanted quality of life rather than every possible medical intervention. Together with Joanne, he chose to spend whatever time remained at their home in Westport. The decision reflected the way he had lived for decades. Whenever possible, he chose the quiet, private path over the public one. During the final months of 2008, his family gathered around him. His daughters and grandchildren visited often, while Joanne rarely left his side. Even as his health declined, Newman continued organizing the future of Newman's Own, the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp, and the Charitable Foundation, making sure the work would continue long after he was gone. In the summer of 2008, he made one final visit to the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp. Staff members remembered him arriving without fanfare, sitting with the children at lunch, looking noticeably thinner, but still carrying the same gentle warmth they had always known. By afternoon, he quietly returned home. He never came back. As September drew to a close, word slowly spread that his condition had worsened. Out of respect, reporters largely stayed away, and the people of Westport continued protecting the privacy they had given him for nearly 5 decades. Paul Newman died at home on September 26, 2008, surrounded by his family. He was 83 years old. The cause of death was lung cancer. He and Joanne had shared more than 50 years of marriage. His funeral was held privately in Connecticut, exactly as he would have wanted. There were no televised ceremonies or grand public memorials. Instead of flowers, the family asked that donations be made to the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp. The next morning, newspapers across America honored not only a legendary actor, but a man who had quietly earned the country's lasting admiration. His obituary appeared on the front page of the New York Times. The night Paul Newman died, tributes poured in from every corner of his life. Racetracks observed moments of silence. Charities reflected on the loss of one of America's greatest philanthropists. Television networks replayed the unforgettable scene from Cool Hand Luke, where Newman, bruised and battered, refuses to give up. And by most standards, that should have been the end of his story. It wasn't. More than a decade after his death, the work Paul Newman began in a quiet Connecticut farmhouse continues to change lives. The films are still watched. His remarkable marriage to Joanne Woodward is still admired. And those famous blue eyes remain part of Hollywood history. But his greatest legacy turned out to be something far bigger than his acting career. It was what he built away from the cameras. The company that began as a joke between two friends making homemade salad dressing never faded after his passing. Thanks to the legal structure Newman created, 100% of Newman's Own after-tax profits continue flowing to the Newman's Own Foundation, just as he intended. Since its founding, the company has donated well over $600 million to charitable causes, supporting food security, nutrition programs, military families, children's health, and countless other organizations. Remarkably, Newman never accepted personal compensation from the business. His daughter, Nell Newman, has continued supporting the family's charitable mission, while the foundation continues distributing millions of dollars through grants every year. The Hole in the Wall Gang Camp also remains exactly what Newman dreamed it would become. Every summer, children facing serious illnesses still arrive on yellow school buses, fish in the same ponds, gather around campfires, and experience childhood without worrying about hospital rooms or treatments. Just as Paul insisted from the beginning, every family attends free of charge. The camp has continued through economic challenges, changing times, and even the pandemic, never losing sight of its purpose. What began in Connecticut has now expanded across the world through the Serious Fun Children's Network. Since 1988, the organization has welcomed well over 1 million seriously ill children and their families across multiple countries. Paul Newman's greatest idea outlived him. The belief that seriously ill children deserved the chance to simply be children continues through the camps he founded, helping families around the world every year. After his death, Joanne Woodward remained in their Westport home and continued leading the Westport Country Playhouse for several years. She rarely gave interviews, but when she did, she spoke about Paul with quiet affection. She never remarried and never left the home they had shared for nearly 5 decades. In later years, her family publicly revealed that she had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Since then, she has lived privately, surrounded by the family she and Paul built together. In 2022, their daughters helped bring their parents' story to a new generation through the documentary The Last Movie Stars, directed by Ethan Hawke. The film drew from interviews Newman had commissioned decades earlier before later deciding they should be destroyed. Although many recordings were lost, written transcripts survived. Those transcripts became the foundation of the documentary, with actors reading Paul and Joanne's words while their children reflected on who their parents really were behind closed doors. Rather than presenting a perfect Hollywood romance, the film offered an honest family portrait. That same year, Newman's memoir, The Extraordinary Life of an Ordinary Man, was published from those surviving materials. In it, he openly discussed his difficult relationship with his father, the mistakes in his first marriage, the loss of Scott, and the decades-long journey of his marriage to Joanne. One thing stands out throughout the book. Paul Newman never tried to excuse himself. He remained remarkably honest about his flaws, even late in life, often questioning whether he had truly understood himself. Like any famous person, Newman also became the subject of countless rumors. Some stories, such as marital difficulties and a genuine crisis during the late 1960s, were later acknowledged by both Paul and Joanne. Others, involving his drinking, family life, or alleged affairs, were never supported by reliable evidence and remained little more than speculation. The documented story is already complex enough without adding myths. What history can say with confidence is that Paul Newman was never a perfect husband, and neither he nor Joanne ever claimed otherwise. Their marriage survived not because it was flawless, but because they repeatedly chose to face its challenges together and kept choosing each other for nearly half a century. Paul Newman was far from a perfect man. By his own admission, he made mistakes, and those closest to him never claimed otherwise. Yet for nearly 50 years, Joanne Woodward kept choosing him, and he kept choosing her. In an industry known for broken relationships, that may be one of the most remarkable parts of his story. His face remains one of the most recognizable in film history. Those famous blue eyes still appear on magazine covers, while scenes from Cool Hand Luke, Butch Cassidy, and The Sundance Kid, The Hustler, and HUD continue to inspire new generations of movie lovers. Even the smiling face on a bottle of Newman's own salad dressing has become an American icon. Most shoppers probably don't know the story behind it. Newman likely would have found that amusing. So what did his life ultimately add up to? Paul Newman probably would have rejected any grand answer. Whenever people tried to elevate him into something larger than life, he usually responded with a joke. The documented record tells a simpler story. He was born with extraordinary looks, but never believed he deserved praise for them. He built an extraordinary acting career, yet remained surprisingly humble. He loved deeply, made painful mistakes, lost people he could never replace, and carried guilt that never completely faded. He survived a war that claimed many of his friends. He lost his son, Scott, and never stopped wondering whether he could have done more. In his final years, he watched his own health decline. Yet instead of allowing those losses to define him, he built something lasting. He built a marriage that endured nearly half a century. He built a network of camps that has given joy to more than 1 million seriously ill children and their families. He built a food company that has donated well over $600 million to charity without enriching its founder. He built one of the greatest careers in American cinema. And behind it all, he built an ordinary home in Westport, Connecticut, where family dinners, grandchildren, race cars, dogs, and everyday life mattered far more than Hollywood glamour. He never seemed to believe he was anyone extraordinary. He told jokes. He wore sunglasses to avoid attention. He raced cars because no one could see his face behind a helmet. He mixed salad dressing in his kitchen. And he quietly visited children at summer camp, sitting beside them at lunch and asking the simplest question of all, "How's your summer going?" Perhaps that's the clearest picture of Paul Newman. A boy searching for his father's approval, a sailor spared by chance, a husband who spent a lifetime acknowledging his mistakes, a grieving father who transformed unimaginable loss into hope for other families. That may be the greatest legacy he ever left behind. Picture Paul Newman one last time, sitting quietly on the dock at his camp in Connecticut, watching the water as the children headed inside for dinner. If someone had asked whether his life truly mattered, he probably would have laughed, made a joke about salad dressing, or changed the subject to race cars. That was simply who he was. But the answer is clear. He took a face he never believed he had earned and used it to open doors for countless people who never had the opportunities he did. He built a marriage that lasted when almost no one expected it to. And after losing his son, he transformed unimaginable grief into hope for generations of seriously ill children. That is an extraordinary legacy. Today, children still arrive at the camps he founded. Newman's Own continues donating millions of dollars to charitable causes. His family continues protecting the values he cared about. And every time one of his classic films plays, a new audience discovers the quiet strength that made him unforgettable. The boy from Shaker Heights became much more than a Hollywood legend. He became proof that the greatest legacy isn't the fame you achieve. It's the lives you improve after you're gone. If you've stayed with this story until the very end, thank you. The greatest way to remember Paul Newman isn't simply by admiring those famous blue eyes, but by appreciating the kindness, humility, and generosity that defined the man behind them. If you enjoyed this video, let us know your favorite Paul Newman film or memory in the comments below. If you enjoy stories about the remarkable lives behind Hollywood's biggest legends, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.